Good morning, and thank you all for inviting me into your virtual homes to speak to you today. My name is Greg Collins, and I am the owner of Cornerstone Pharmacy. We're in Palm Desert near Sun City, Washington Street. And I'll just tell you a little bit about our pharmacy first. We're only 3 years old as of next week. So we're a young pharmacy, if you will. I have a background of working with CVS Health for over 20 years, and had this harebrained idea to go open my own pharmacy after being in big retail for a long time. So we're doing everything we can to serve our customers at a high level of service, and just enjoying the process. And so just a little bit about Cornerstone. We serve regular retail patients. We serve 4 assisted living facilities, 3 of which have memory care units in them. And we serve 5 hospices as well. So we are out and about delivering medications throughout the valley daily. And as of late, with the pandemic, the COVID in the news, if you will, our deliveries have probably doubled. And just for folks that are wanting to stay at home, limit the exposure, and what have you. So it's one of the benefits of a local independent pharmacy, and that we deliver for free across the whole Coachella Valley. So in this day and age, you gotta serve your customers well, and that includes meeting every need that they've got. And so we had to ramp up our services during this time as well. But I've been a pharmacist for 20 years now, and like I said, a lot of my time was with CVS Pharmacy as a pharmacy manager, as a district manager, and then my last position was as a corporate pharmacist recruiter for them in the Southwestern United States. I'm passionate about serving patients, no matter what challenge that they have. I currently also work with Parkinson's patients as well. We offer consultations. If you, at any point in time, with ACV, you would like to call and set up a private consultation with me, I don't charge for those as it relates to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's patients. It's just something that I like to do, get to know families and any challenges that you may have, and see if there's a way that we can help you in your journey. I am not just a pharmacist, I'm a father and a husband. And as Priscilla mentioned, I also have a son who just graduated high school last night, virtually. And so the school did an amazing job, with the challenges that they've got, and he felt very special last night. So that was fantastic. But with everything going on out there, I feel selfish to admit, but we lost my daughter's college graduation, we lost my son's high school graduation, and then my daughter's getting married next weekend, and we only are going to have only 20 people at the wedding, which is not what we had envisioned for her. But we're kind of rolling through this process and dealing with the challenges in that way as well. And my wife's doing an amazing job making our kids feel special through this process. So with that said, that's a little bit about me. And so Priscilla asked that I talk about this whole challenge that everybody's having with COVID. I mean, we're observing precautions at Cornerstone. My delivery drivers are gloving and masking up. Most of the time when we deliver to patients' homes, they'll ring the doorbell. The patient will ask if they leave it on the porch, and then there's really no contact, for those patients. In addition, normally, as you know, when you get a medication, you have to sign for it. The insurances require that you sign for that. And that's even lightened up right now. We are not required to do that. We just obtain folks' names and write them on the receipt so that we have documentation who we gave those medications to. So I mentioned that we serve a few assisted living facilities. We have one that's a memory care facility completely, and that's Callao Bay and La Quinta. We also serve Windsor Court and Palm Springs. We're serving Stonewall Gardens in Palm Springs, as well as Atria Rancho Mirage on Bob Hope there that used to be Mission Hills. So our experience with patients with challenges with Alzheimer's and memory is becoming quite extensive at this point. The challenges, I'm probably, I guess we go preaching to the choir here. in terms of treating Alzheimer's is very difficult, and there's not many medications that are used for Alzheimer's. Most of you would be familiar with Aricept or donepezil or memantine. A combination of the two, if you will. It's often not covered by insurance, and so we're really kind of challenged with how do you treat Alzheimer's, and that we're trying mainly to slow the progression of the disease with the medications that we've got. Of course, there's some lifestyle changes, but really what we're trying to deal with is when you got nerves that aren't communicating very well with neurotransmitters. There's only a few things that we can do when you've got those challenges with nerves communicating with each other. And so, most, if not all, of our patients dealing with this disease are on what we call a cholinesterase. Excuse me, I'm even getting tongue-tied. Cholinesterase inhibitors. That would be your Aricept, your Razidine, or your Exelon. Some of you are familiar with the ribostigmine patches. That's a once-a-day patch used to help. And then you got the galantamine, which comes in extended release now, and you also have the donepezil tablets. But it seems like the most tolerated form of that medication is the Aricept. And so we find, I would say, close to 80–90% of the patients taking Aricept daily. And then in addition to that, we call them NMDA antagonists. They actually, such as Namenda, will work to, and they're indicated for patients with not just mild dementia, but more moderate to severe, which, I'm not sure the data shows that they don't do much for patients who are recently, or newly diagnosed. However, from a pharmacist perspective, they're very well tolerated, and it seems to make sense to me to start them earlier than later, if at all possible. So, again, that's your memantine. And so, with that said, it comes in an extended release where you can take that once a day, but we see most patients actually on the twice-a-day dosage for that as well. And again, it's very well tolerated, especially after patients have been on that for a little while. And with most side effects that we see might be a little bit of nausea, maybe some dizziness, but tends to wear off after patients have been on that for a little while. And then some of you have heard of the drug Namzaric, which is the combination of the donepezil and memantine. The challenge that we see with that, unless you have a decent amount of money, you're okay spending that. Insurances will either not cover that or charge you a lot of money for that. So what we usually do in those situations to save our patients a lot of money is we'll divide that into the donepezil and the long-acting memantine. A real life example recently was a patient who was admitted to Caleo Bay, was on that. She was being charged, I think, $150 or so a month just for that one drug. But when we separated the two drugs out, she ended up paying, I think, she ended up saving about $100 per month. Didn't even realize that was available to her, but it's a significant cost savings for her. Obviously, she's investing a lot to have him at a facility like that, and so any way to save money is a good option for her, or was for her. So we'll do things like that. Oftentimes in pharmacy or community pharmacy, we feel like we're just downstream from the medical decisions. But as we get to know our patients better, it enables us to be a more, I guess, to participate a little bit better in healthcare, and to get to know the doctors better, and have some suggestions for physicians. So another example with a Parkinson's patient, the doctor decided to change his dose on a particular medication, which caused significant adverse reactions. And he wasn't a patient of ours at that time. He asked for a consultation. Before the consultation, I was able to figure out what had happened and worked with the doctor to fix it. And literally overnight, instead of what he thought was his Parkinson's getting worse overnight significantly, we were able to fix the small mistake that was made. That it was a small mistake, but it caused significant issues for the patient. So again, one of the things that we can do in terms of when we know our patients and we know their caregivers, their spouses, we can react quicker to things that may come up in their journey and the challenges that they've got from a medication perspective. The other thing as far as Alzheimer's is oftentimes there's other things that come up, when dealing with Alzheimer's. Oftentimes there's depression type symptoms. Sometimes there's agitation or delusions and certainly insomnia. And so there's other medications that we see commonly used. And I don't need to go through all of those, but generally speaking, there's specific medications that are used to treat those. And some of you may say, or be familiar with things like Ativan or Xanax or Seroquel, which the generic is quetiapine. Just antidepressants, Cymbalta, Prozac, duloxetine, all of those things tend to come into play. And so that's why it's important for, as a pharmacist or even any kind of a provider, to understand, well, what are your challenges? Are there any challenges at all? Are they financial? Are they just, patients sleeping all day, or they're agitated at a specific time every day? Those are all important things to deal with, that you all deal with as caregivers at home. And we can provide suggestions. As pharmacists, we don't have prescriptive authority. But what I usually do with the patients that I meet with is I kind of arm them with several questions that they can take to their provider at their next doctor's appointment. And so I will say, I think that this would be a good thing to ask the doctor about, or something to change in the medication therapy. Ultimately, the doctor is going to make that decision, and with you. And if the doctor has any questions, they can certainly give us a call as well. But again, these are all just suggestions that we make, things to think about according to feedback that's been given to us as far as the challenges that a patient might have. Okay. In addition, that there's supplements that are out there. I often see patients come in with a list of supplements a mile long, and sometimes I ask them, well, what are you taking all of these for? And they don't really understand what they're taking it for. So I encourage you to kind of understand what those medications will do. Pardon me really quick. I'm still running the pharmacy, so I have to sign something.
Yeah.
We're good? Okay, thank you. So supplements, oftentimes there's way too many. Sometimes there's not enough. I'm currently, testing a supplement. I had some folks come into my pharmacy, and it mainly, in Parkinson's patients that we're testing it. But one of the supplements was called Brain Boost, and I have 3 patients taking this supplement that I can believe everything that was told to me about the supplements, but I have a hunch that I think they're pretty good supplements. And so one patient actually is actually reporting pretty significant improvement in cognition. And that's coming from the patients feeling that, as well as the caregiver or his spouse. So I'm wondering about bringing that supplement into the pharmacy, knowing that everybody's response to everything is going to be different. For what might work for me may not work for Pat or Priscilla. It's just hard to say. Okay, so and then when I was at the last meeting at ACV, I had a lot of questions about CBD. And it seems to be all the rage these days. As far as if you drive up the freeway, how many billboards are you going to see advertising a CBD shop, hemp shop, and what have you? So I brought in some CBD products about a year ago, and personally, when I sell any of that, I ask for feedback from the patients, no matter what they're using it for, and we're seeing some tremendous feedback for treating a lot of different things. And so I was asked, there was a question that came in earlier about any topicals of CBD. I have 3 forms of topicals, and I currently use a topical myself. I'm stuck holding a phone like this a decent amount of the day, and I love putting CBD on my neck and my shoulder at the end of the day, even throughout the day if I'm struggling. And I have a roll-on, so I have a salve, I have a roll-on, I have a cream. They work well. So it's something to think about. And for those of you who are like, oh, I don't want to use a marijuana product, The CBD products that I can sell come from the hemp plant alone. They don't come from a marijuana plant, so they have no THC in them. So if you're looking for that added benefit of THC, whatever that might be for you, you can't come to Cornerstone Pharmacy for that. But we're seeing these products, the CBD products, work incredibly for pain, any kind of arthritic, inflammatory pain. We're seeing it work very well for migraines. We're seeing it work well for sleep. And you know, it's a natural product, if you will. Excuse me. So we don't know what dose would work well for you. Excuse me. However, it is one of those products at this point as a pharmacist, we're seeing significant positive results. So my question to folks is, why not try it? The safety profile is significant. I've only had 2 people come back and say, you know, it kind of flared up my reflux disease, my acid reflux, by using the tincture. So I've had 2 patients tell me that, but the reality of it, for only 2 to come back and say that, and I've got quite a few people taking the products and seeing good results, it could be a good investment. Another vitamin that I'm looking at is a multivitamin that actually has CBD in it as well. And it's a good, for those of you who need to take a multivitamin, it has a CBD in there. It costs, I think, about $60 a month. I've not brought it into my pharmacy yet, but great, because if you were to buy any of these CBD products, take them on a daily basis, you'd be investing about $50 a month anyways. You know, so why not combine it with a multivitamin where you're getting other nutrition from it? And then I have a CBD, so I have it in a tincture form, I have it in capsule form, I even have, and I brought to the last meeting, I can't give them to you today, but I have some samples as well. So for those of you who don't want to make a full investment, but would like to try a couple little things, I've got some options for that as well here at the pharmacy. So I have become, over time, a proponent of CBD products, an advocate for them. I will be honest with you, before I brought it in, I did not know that there was a difference between the hemp plant and the marijuana plant. I just didn't know. So I started doing my own research when I was bringing these things in, and I'm very happy to see how effective they've been for our patients. So I even have a few Parkinson's patients that say it's helping with their tremors as well. So again, it's one of those things where if I give you a pamphlet on it, it says it works well for about 20 different things, which is hard to believe. But the fact that you've got CBD receptors throughout your whole body and in your central nervous system, it makes sense that if you got them all over the place, that you're seeing benefits for multiple different conditions. So very significant there. Let's see, what else? What have I missed here today? Pat, was there anything that I missed that I had covered in the last meeting there? I realized it was about 10 minutes of talk. I think we had about half an hour of questions last time we met.
I think there will. I just wanted to ask you, Greg, for some of our families, their loved ones are on quite a few medications that they're trying to manage for them. If that was the case, and it would make it easier for them to manage with bubble packing them for morning, noon, and night, is that an additional charge to the family with Cornerstone, or how does that work?
Yeah, it is. If it's a patient if they're our patient, we don't charge them for that. If they bring me bottles from mail order and I gotta make 20 to 30 bubble packs, we do charge for that. Now, some pharmacies charge $8 per pack. We charge $2.50. We're just covering our costs with that because it is time consuming, and we actually create a label for that as well. We do that, we call that repacking. We do that for patients at Caleo Bay. We do that for patients in our other facilities. Because in some cases it's cheaper for them to get their prescriptions through mail order and then have them repacked. But sometimes they don't realize when I get a 90-day supply from mail order and the patient's taking it 3 times a day, well, that's going to be 2, 4, 3, 6, 9. That's 9 bubble packs. So that's 250 times 9. And so it costs money to repack that. Now, I have looked at and will still consider in the future of bringing in one of those machines like PillPack.
Oh, okay.
The cost is I couldn't find the $170,000 lying around my house to buy that machine yet. But with that said, that's another option that's helping people out as well. Again, to review, if you're a Cornerstone patient, you want those bubble packs, we won't charge you extra for that. But if you need that done and you're bringing meds in from the outside, then we do have to charge a little bit for that. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Greg. And remember, if you have questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat window. And I know you covered that you don't carry THC products, Greg,
Right.
but I do have a question asking if you have an opinion on the effectiveness of pure CBD versus a CBD THC combo for topical pain.
For topical pain, I don't know that there'd be that much of a difference with the THC product in there, because THC is going to, I think if you got a patient who is perhaps an insomniac, they're struggling with their sleep, THC may help to relax them, or if they've got muscle spasms, what have you. We've even seen the combo products with THC help patients a little bit more with when they've got tremors and Parkinson's associated tremors. Because that's going to quiet down the nervous system, if you will. It's a central nervous system depressant. So you can expect as a depressant, think of something like a Xanax or an Ativan, where people use it for anxiety, and it calms their nervous system, but could cause a significant amount of drowsiness associated with that. And the thing about this population I worry about with any of those medications, whether it's THC, whether it's Ativan, whether it's Xanax, is you get drowsy, but then you can also get dizzy. You can also be unsteady on your feet. You can be more prone to falling, and then causing a whole nother issue if that were to take place, if there was a fall and a break of a bone or what have you. So everything that you think about or you need to think about from a pharmacy or medication perspective or new therapy is, what's the risk versus the benefit? And in some cases, okay, they're less agitated, they're treating it better, but they're very unsteady on their feet. So what kind of adjustments do you make, in association with that? So when it comes to the topicals, though, I haven't gotten any feedback of combo products with THC in them in comparison. I will say, though, the products with CBD alone work very well for topical pain. Now, if you have pain that you have throughout your whole body, you may benefit better from something you take internally. Versus if I just had that localized pain like I described, then I would think about maybe a salve or a roll-on or a cream. But if I have pain in my shoulders, my knees, head and shoulder, knees, everywhere, I would probably want to do a tincture or a capsule that I take orally so that it can get throughout my whole body.
No, I hear you. I have a balm that I use right in that same spot on shoulders and neck almost daily.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from a member about Aricept for mild cognitive impairment of vascular origin at slowly cognitive decline or preventing dementia. I'm not sure about that. Okay, so she's asking, how long can it remain effective and at what dose? If an 89-year-old man has been taking it for 4 to 5 years, what are the potential risks and benefits of stopping Aricept at this point? And are there alternatives? You might have covered this a little bit.
Yeah, so my opinion is that it's usually very well tolerated. So if this patient is not having, side effects from the medication or challenges with it, whether it be stomach side effects, headaches or anything like that, I would term the risk very low from taking the medication. So, however, if the patient's dealing with significant side effects from this medication, and we're not sure if it's doing anything for the cognitive function, then maybe you take him off the medication. But if he or she is tolerating it very well, I would continue the medication. It's hard to measure how well it's working. Certainly they can go off the medication and see if there's any kind of decline, but if you think about going back to the way the medication works, we're trying to slow the cognitive decline. We're not reversing anything that's there as far as we know. So the thought might be if you stop the medication that the cognitive decline could accelerate.
Okay. You had mentioned like pill packs and things before, you and Pat were talking about. Are there apps or online forms you can print out that help people organize maybe their various prescriptions and supplements?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have specific apps at the top of my head, but there's a lot that you can use in terms of a smartphone to help you with a reminder. I'm sure there's a lot of them out there right now. I don't have a favorite. I haven't really done time researching that, but yes, I think as far as apps, there's probably a lot. There's probably more than you need out there at this point. And I'm not sure, versus payment for apps versus free apps, what that would look like. But I believe there's a lot of options for that in these days.
Great. Well, maybe we'll do that on our end and get some information out about that too. We have a really nice comment from one of our viewers that they've been transitioning over to Cornerstone because they live in Sun City. So if you didn't know, Cornerstone's located right up there near the corner of Varner and Washington. So near Sun City Palm Desert, which is a great community. And they're just said how happy they are with you guys and your personal service. And she's asking, do you have a prediction on the safety or availability of getting a regular flu shot at pharmacies this fall?
Yeah, I've been getting some communication from my provider. I've pre-ordered, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, about 250, high dose flu vaccinations this year. That order is coming in for sure. Of course, as it gets closer to flu season, it's really hard to say. I predict that there's going to be a significant demand this year just because what's happened with COVID. And I think it's enough folks have scared. There's been enough news about vaccinations at this point that the news traditionally or historically is what drives people in for flu shots or not. So even if it's not a bad flu season, if there's something that runs on TV, we know because we start getting a lot of phone calls and people asking for the shot. So of course, the flu shot every single year is a we'll call it a best guess from the CDC as to what virus is actually going to be present in affecting us. And sometimes they'll say that we hit the mark, and other times they'll say that we missed it completely. So as it relates to a vaccination for what this pandemic right now, I don't have a lot of data on that, what that would look like. Coverage, I imagine that with all the pressure there is out there, political and otherwise, it'll probably be covered by Medicare when it comes out at no cost. It's hard to say, but I do 200 to 300 flu vaccinations a year to folks, and expect that to be very similar this year, if not more, if there's enough vaccine available, because they make their vaccine in batches, and it has to all be approved by the FDA. And I think they started doing that prior to this pandemic. So it could be that we don't have as much vaccine as we need this year. It's just hard to say.
Okay, thank you. And regarding a pneumonia shot, do you have an opinion on whether people over 65, when and if they should get a pneumonia vaccine?
Yeah, the guidelines are that you get, there's two different pneumonia vaccines, that you get a pneumonia vaccine after the age of 65. Some doctors, if you are a high-risk patient, meaning you have a pulmonary issue, you've got COPD, or you're on inhalers, or you're high risk because you have diabetes or something like that, they may recommend that you booster those every 5 years, but that's something that the doctor will tell you. We currently have both pneumonia vaccinations in stock and can do those at any time. For patients on Medicare, those are completely covered. So there's no out-of-pocket cost for you. And then there's a sequence there. So you'll do one vaccination at one point, and then 1 year later, we do the second vaccination. So we don't do them both at one time. If you came in for a flu shot and you wanted the pneumonia shot at the same time, we can do those at the same time. We'll often do those in different arms. So we'll make you equally sore on both sides. Some patients will like one arm, which is fine. You can do them both in one arm if you need to. Yeah, there's been the demand for those vaccinations is usually higher in the fall. Obviously, the flu shot, the demand starts in September. Usually tapers off after Thanksgiving, but it depends again on what's in the news. So it's hard to say.
Now, for those two-part vaccinations, do you send out reminders to people at the year anniversary, or do they have to remember on their own? Because like I would probably forget.
Yeah, we can help with that if they ask for it. A lot of times, folks these days are just setting a reminder in their phone, which is better.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can set a reminder in our pharmacy system as well.
All right. And just a comment from Helen. You said John uses My Therapy. Is that an app for managing your prescriptions and medications and everything? She's unmuting.
It's a free phone app that we just got from the Play Store for our phones. And it just works beautifully because it has a background of drugs. So as soon as you put the drug name in, it knows what it is, and then it has you schedule it. And then it alerts you when it's time for you to take that drug, and then you have to swipe it off that you've taken it, or else it alerts you again. And it's just working really well for John, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So it's called My Therapy.
It's called My Therapy. There are many, just as he said, there are many such things, but this one just happens to be one that was recommended to us and that we like very much, very easy to use. So you can schedule, you know, he has one that's once a week, and he has others that are 3 times a day, and some that are 2 times a day, and you just put the whole thing in, and it alerts you for each thing that you're supposed to take. So.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, next question is Metaphobic effective for brain health?
I'm not familiar with that product.
Okay.
I can look it up and get back to you though.
All right,
so,
thank you. Yeah, let me know and I'll pass it along.
The thing about the supplements is that there's really no studies that will, usually if they say that it'll help with this, there's usually an asterisk by it, right? Which they can't claim. For instance, I was at a talk a while back where somebody from one of the hemp shops said that their products cures HIV. But you can't make those claims. You know, you can't say that Metaphobic cures Alzheimer's disease. You know, whether it helps or not is another thing altogether. So again, I mentioned earlier, everybody's different in their response to whether it be supplements, whether it be prescription medications and what have you. And so you can't make that claim. I can look at the products in there and I can have an opinion, but the company nor I can say, yeah, it works for this, because even if I have a personal story with it, that doesn't mean it'll work for the next person. So.
All right, good thought. Okay, so another member's asking for people who got the old shingles shot over 5 years ago, do you recommend getting the new Shingrix shot?
Yes. Yes, I'm doing quite a few Shingrix shots. It is a 2-dose series shown to be much more effective than the original. So yes, you would need to start that series if you're interested in that. Most folks on this call probably have a friend who's had shingles or have had it themselves and know how painful it could be. And there was a time actually last year where we couldn't even get the Shingrix shot for months. It's pretty well available at this point. And again, a 2-dose series. So you'll get the first shot, and then between a window of 2 and 6 months after the first shot, you're going to get the second one. So you got a 4-month window in there. So if I got the first one today in May, I wait till similar time, end of July, early August, and I look to get the second one at that point, which is the exact same shot. It's a booster basically to help your immune system have a stronger response to it. And basically, that doesn't mean you're not going to get shingles. It just like any vaccination, it helps your immune system to rev up and to deal with that. If you're exposed to it, or if the shingles starts to rear its ugly head, you can attack it faster. It tends to lessen the severity of the shingles case if you were to get it.
Okay, and you mentioned the flu shots that most people tend to do that in the fall. Does it matter what time of year you get it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's
time to do it?
Yeah, the flu season tends to be, starts in September, although we don't usually see a lot of cases there, and goes through April. That's the traditional time frame. And, although most people will get their flu shot in September, October, and early November, flu seasons could go all the way through early spring. And so, I was still given some flu shots in February. I think I gave even one in March this year. But the earlier the better, because that flu could be, rearing its ugly head. And, everybody's got their opinion on this, pandemic that's gone on this year. But please realize that the normal flu kills tens of thousands of Americans every single year. And again, it's usually folks who are high risk, that have pulmonary issues, that are a little bit older and what have you. So, and this respiratory illness that's out there is really no different in terms of if you're at higher risk, you'll be more prone to getting sick. So with the flu shots, again, we hope that the CDC predicts the right strain. There's several strains that are in the flu vaccination. Again, it helps your immune system to react quicker if you're exposed.
All right. Another supplement question. Are you familiar with Barlean's oil key lime flavor? It's a fish oil, I believe.
I am not, no.
No? Okay. And another vaccine question, asking about the measles vaccine or booster for seniors. Is that something necessary, or has the threat passed on that?
I feel the threat has passed. I mean, I still have it in stock. Unfortunately, I have to buy 10 doses, and I end up sometimes just using 2. And so, but with that said, as you remember, that was in the news, several months ago. I don't even know how many months ago, probably 8, 9 months ago, maybe longer. And so there's some people seeking that vaccination because they, were going to be around a grandchild or what have you. So it was just a booster for them. But I feel like it hasn't been in the news for a while. I feel like that threat has passed. I'd have to do a little research to see if there's any more cases popping up out there.
All right. Are there any other questions out there? Does anyone want to hold their hand up at me if you weren't able to use the chat? But I think we've got a lot of good information, and thank you so much for your patience with us answering all our questions. There's just so much to know and so much uncertainty, so it really helps to have you here. Just to remind everybody, for our Friday talks for Traveling the Journey, you can see all of the videos of these talks on our YouTube channel, Alzheimer's Coachella Valley. Please follow us, or on our website, cvalzheimers.org. And Greg, coming to us from Cornerstone Pharmacy, up there on Washington and Varner. It looks like you're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, and Saturday, 9 to 1. Is that still correct?
That's still correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Greg. We really appreciate having you with us.
Thank you all. I appreciate the questions and the time with you this morning.